Hi, guys. Welcome back to Cupcakes and Protein Shakes. I am your host, Savannah. We're doing another episode where we have a very special guest. So introduce yourself. Tell me, where are you at right now and what do you do?
Hey everybody, I'm Simone Maman. I am half of Balance and Body Diagnostics. So my business partner, Angelica Lazick, she could not be here, but I will be here on our mutual behalf. We run Balance and Body Diagnostics together. It is a functional lab testing company as well as a functional coaching company. We like to say that we're kind of like the doulas of functional bodybuilding. So we don't take the place of your coach. We're not building out a coaching team, but we do work with coaches in the space who either are functionally, hormonally really literate or aren't and want to bring us in as that asset. So we're there to advocate for our clients and make sure that we're kind of filling all the gaps, meeting all of your needs when it comes to hormone health, gut health, your adrenals, your mineral balances, your vitamin balances, your mental health, all of that stuff so that you can have the most amazing prep and actually get out of your prep what it is that your coaches are promising you can if you obviously dot all of your I's and cross all of your T's. So that's me. I'm out in Toronto. We work with our clients everywhere. We've got clients here in Canada, we've got clients in the States, and we've actually got clients now in Europe as well, UK, Ireland, cool places. So we can work with anybody anywhere because we do all of our work virtually. And on a side note, I'm also a mom of five and I thought retired IFBB bikini pro, but seems like there's a new category. We've got fit model. So I personally think it's like the most functionally sound category. So I have to get my shoes back on, and I'm hoping to be doing that next year. And you have three bikinis coming my way this week, actually.
Yay. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, obviously that kind of leads us into bodybuilding a little bit. So,
a lot
background
of it.
story, we kind of know now. Okay, so you're getting back on stage, we're picking up the
Yeah.
heels, but there's a gap in time where we started. So, walk us through, when did this like fitness journey start for you and like what year? How did you hear about it? What was the draw? Why did you start?
So I did what everybody did, which is, take myself into the gym at some point in life and immediately fell in love with the heavy lifting, with the community, with the camaraderie, obviously with the changes that I was seeing in my body. I have a history of a lot of competitive sports and dance. I was a dancer for, gosh, I'm from the age of 3 till about 19 and competed for most of those years. I competed in, like I said, martial arts, in wushu and tai chi. I competed at the national level here in Canada. And as I got older and did less of that, I was still craving somewhere where I can kind of, just set the bar really high, push myself a little harder, and yeah, and just, stay competitive. And so when I got into the gym, I took on that tendency that I do, which is to set really, really big goals. And so I started training very regularly, daily, sometimes twice a day. Don't recommend. But I guess, people in the space took notice, and I think that it was perhaps the athletic shape that I kind of came to the gym with, as well as the tenacity, the hard work that led a few people at the gym, bodybuilders, coaches, to start saying, "Hey, have you ever thought about competing?" And honestly, I had no idea what that was. I didn't know that you could actually compete at the gym. I thought that meant powerlifting because my grandfather, on my mom's side, my maternal grandfather, he was a champion powerlifter in Russia. So I thought that's what they meant. It was totally not what I wanted to do. But I saw the magazines because at the time that's what we looked at, and I just absolutely loved the idea. Now I should say that when I started competing, I already had three of my five kids, and that was actually a massive drive for me because what I was hearing so often was like, "Oh my gosh, you look amazing for having three kids." And while that's a huge compliment, obviously I'll take them wherever I can get them, it was the for having three kids that to me just kind of felt like a bit of a ceiling. It felt like a caveat, right? And really what I wanted was just to build a body that was amazing of its own merit with or without kids. And so yeah, my bodybuilding journey began, and my first show was in 2009. And no, that's not true. I started training for my first show 2009, 2010 to 2013. I jumped around a lot of different stages and federations. So I competed with Fame. They're not around anymore, but that was like the OG Natural Federation. I competed with the UFE here in Canada. I competed with the WBFF as well, and I actually earned my pro card in all of those. And then, I started competing with our version of the NPC here in Canada. At the time was at the Ontario level, it was the OPA, the Ontario Physique Association, and then it was the CBBF. So we've got all different names, all different acronyms now. But eventually, in the spring of 2013, I did turn pro in bikini. It was a tested show, so it was the natural world qualifier. And I won it in our open bikini class. And that was something that was really important to me because I was 34 at the time. And I actually didn't want to compete in masters. Masters women are phenomenal. My hat goes off to them. It's definitely something that I will be doing eventually. But there was something about being the oldest competitor on stage and still taking the division that I felt, well, one, really proud of, but I was hoping would also be really motivating to other women. So yeah, that's where I did it. And then the first pro show in was in my backyard. It was the Toronto Pro Show. And that was it. I had a decent run for my first year and then, found myself pregnant with my fourth baby. So I had to take a little bit of a break. I had plans to come back not too long ago. You and I spoke. It was actually a couple of years ago. And you effortlessly picked out the perfect color for me for my suit. And unfortunately, soon after that, I actually got quite sick and kind of had to take a little bit of a backseat. So soon
I
though,
know. This is
almost time.
crazy. Wow. Okay. Where do we take this? Because I have so many questions. First off, mom of five,
Yeah.
crazy, crazy. Hats off to you because you're busy. You're doing everything. You're still having time for business, for mom, for everything that you have going on, which is really exciting. And I think that's something that we don't see a lot of. Hey, I have a life and a business, and I'm going to be able to do competing and do it well. So 2013 was retire time, or what year was this when you took a break?
Yeah, at the end of 2013, I had to take a pause because it was time to grow baby number four.
Okay.
So
And then we came back again.
for a moment, I just kind of
Okay.
like I took, little hello on stage. 2015, it was not my best showing. But honestly, though, I wish that I would have known then what I know now. But the red flags were definitely waving and symptoms were definitely starting to speak up. And I wasn't actually getting out of my prep what I wanted to. And really, unfortunately, I was already committed to the show. I wish that I could have pulled out. I had got tickets booked, the whole nine. It was, like I said, not my best showing, but my body was just not performing. It was not delivering. So prep in general, I think it should move in a very predictable way. So you should be able to see fat loss in a predictable way. You should be able to actually, I don't want to say sail through, but certainly, have a predictable type of digestive prowess. You should be able to maintain your menstrual cycles. Like these are you should be able to actually keep all of the bases where you want them as you progress through your prep and eventually get on stage. And I was having to just white knuckle my way through that prep. And like I said, when I finally got on stage, it was not a showing that I was proud of in the slightest. I mean, I made it there. That was nice. But it wasn't a competitive physique and it wasn't for a lack of trying. And unfortunately, I did what a lot of athletes do, which is ignore the signs, right? And just keep going. So it's kind of like, leaving that engine light warning light on your dash and just, kind of continuing to drive and hoping for the best. And that's sort of what I did with that prep. So
Yeah.
it was one show, it was it was the Tijuana Pro, I believe it was Tijuana Pro. Finished, if it wasn't last, it was pretty close to it. And, then had to kind of like I said, take a back seat and really take audit of what was going on with my body. And there was a lot going on with my body. But with respect to having five kids, I think now, especially looking at the Masters division, as Sandy shared many times that women's division, especially in bikini masters, is growing at a massive rate, and a lot of those women do have a lot of kids in tow. And I personally think that women who are either entrepreneurial or who have a family that they're taking care of are oftentimes better suited to the rigors of bodybuilding because we're really good at staying organized. We're really good at packing lunches, which we need to do for ourselves. And we talk about, getting training in meal prep. And I think we're really good at taking things in stride. Show day is a huge day, but the work that goes into our shows, like let's be honest, it's something that we all do, whether we do it well or not, we all do day in, day out, right? We all should be moving our bodies. It's just, are you doing it in a programmed way, right? Are you continuing to up the intensity? We all need to be mindful of the types of foods that we're consuming. And so, are you actually eating in a strategic way or not? So that's the thing is we're all going to eat, we're all going to rest, we're all going to train. Just are you doing it for the purpose of stage? So I think that, when it comes to kind of the prep and motherhood, I think they're really synergistic. They can work really, really well together. So long as, you've got all your ducks in a row and you kind of, like I said, don't try to control what you can't, which is usually the
Yeah.
case. Yeah.
I know. I want to touch a little bit on some of the things that you said. So I know by talking to a lot of athletes that the masters category makes up 60% of all competitors. It is the biggest category. So this is masters is considered anyone 35 and above, and 60 like that's mostly women. It's not just men, but it is mostly women. So mostly masters women. I think financially, you're in a good spot where you can afford the competitive lifestyle because it is expensive to travel. I think mentally, you're prepared for hard challenges. You don't have to go out drinking and really worry about that if you're running a household. Like, you really only have time for your family and the gym, or you might sneak in a training session. I do think that there is some benefits where you have to be organized because there's no time. Like, you have to find the time to take towards yourself because otherwise you're not going to fit it in. And like, as the sport has progressed each year, the level of muscle maturity required to compete has significantly changed since bikini first started. So it's, in my opinion, it's more competitive as a masters because just it takes a lot longer to build that muscle, to get the striations, to get the tines, to get the muscles that are full. It takes years. It's not just a 1 or 2 year sport that it used to be. Bikini used to be that way, which and that leads to a new category that you will eventually be in, which is now called fit model, which is basically OG bikini. Again, more sustainable. And we'll get to all of those things. But I think the main thing that I want to bring back is noticing red flags in prep. It's hard if you're a new athlete because you're not sure what to expect, or you just think the grind, the harder the worse I feel, the better I look. It's this intense mindset that I have to keep pushing, and no matter what, I have to keep doing it this certain way, and I'm just going to follow the program blindly. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. So I think that when I was younger, when I was doing preps, I was just whatever I was told I would do blindly, whatever they said. Now I'm to the point where it's like, okay, those red flags of why am I getting acne? What's going on? Why am I losing my cycle? What's going on? Why do I actually feel awful when I'm training and I'm supposed to be in shape? Like, I feel physically bad. My energy is weak, weak, weak. It's not just like prep tired. It's the point where like I don't have brain power anymore. Like, those red flags, my digestion is off. How do I have abs, but I'm bloated? Like, weird little things like that. Like, how does it make sense if I'm eating these whole clean foods, but now I have red flag, red flag, red flag? If you're doing it the right way, you should feel like a superhero. You really should. You should feel energized, a little tired, of course, but you really shouldn't feel terrible to a certain extent. So talk me through, how did these like red flags lead you to where you're at now? And
Sure.
like some of the things that you kind of wish that you would have known for like new competitors that are doing this, of like, hey, listen to your body.
I wish that I would have known that, just like you said, it is entirely possible to feel really amazing throughout your prep. You can get to stage day feeling good, being able to remember where you put your keys, still with your, endocrine system in check, still able to digest the foods that you were able to digest before you started prep. That is entirely possible. And the era of bodybuilding that I grew up in, though, like, feeling great was the currency that you invested into your prep. So you had to know that you were going to exchange your wellness, your health markers, your cognitive function for an aesthetic goal. And I don't think that that necessarily needs to be the case. And so those were like all of those things that you mentioned. Those were things that I started to see definitely during my prep, but even afterwards, because my mistake was thinking that prep was the stressor. Prep wasn't the stressor. we have to look at stress in a very, very different light than we conventionally do. We think that stress is, when it comes to prep, that it is just, the hours of cardio, if that's something that you're doing, or the caloric restriction, or maybe some of the supplements that you're taking that could be, kind of a bit of a burden on the system. But stress is multifaceted. And if you have a stress bucket, 0 to 100 mils of stress that you have a capacity to contend with over the course of the day, understand that the stress of yes, your diet, yes, your training, yes, your sleep, that's going to start to add up. But the stress also of all the different endocrine disruptors, right? So we're eating out of plastic, we're drinking out of plastic, all of the different supplements that we're taking that may, and I'm not even talking about PEDs, I'm saying even natural supplements that may or may not be benefiting our system. Perhaps they're actually causing liver congestion and making it really difficult for us to detoxify things that need to leave the body. It could also be the mental stress, the emotional anguish of constantly comparing ourselves to other people, the doom scrolling of do I look as good as she does at this point in prep. It could be relationships that we have or maybe need and are lacking in our personal lives. It could be work stress. It could be a bacterial infection. It could be so many different things. So my thinking was at the time, okay, well, I just leave prep and maybe I find a different coach, right? Somebody who has a different approach. Maybe it's a different set of macros that I need. Maybe I just need a quick reverse diet. When the reality was that I was actually dealing with a whole bunch of other hidden stressors from the level of hormones due to a hormonal IUD that I had been using at the time. There was actually a gut infection that I later discovered that I was able to eradicate with, a great protocol, but all of these things were taking up so much room in that stress capacity bucket that it was actually when we threw prep in that all the lights started to go off because we were basically spilling over. So removing prep doesn't necessarily resolve the underlying issues. It doesn't resolve the hidden stressors. It just takes the edge off. And so what I would urge everyone to do, especially if you're a new competitor, is two things. Number one, you need to get really clear on what it is that you want to achieve. Because if all that you want to achieve is to get on stage once, wear the bikini, place, maybe not, get some amazing pictures, then I guess you're going to go at it the way that you're going to go at it. But if you actually want to have longevity in the sport, if you want to be a Jennifer Dory, if you want to literally grow up on stage and actually leave a legacy, if you want to create, perhaps revenue streams, businesses, off stage during, while you're there or once you're done, then you're going to have to really pace yourself. And that doesn't necessarily mean competing less. It just means competing smarter. The other thing that you're really going to have to do is start thinking about your life off stage. Is something like your reproductive health important to you? Are you planning on eventually being able to have a family? Do you have the type of career or career aspirations that are going to require you to be super sharp? If those things are important, then again, how you actually take on the stress of prep and everything around it is going to matter. And that should actually help you team up with the right coach for you because it's not just about what do their athletes look like when they get on stage. It's number one, what do they feel like? How is their body functionally functioning while they're on stage? And then what does the exit strategy look like? And so I would urge everybody, whether you are new at this or whether, you're an old hat at it, interview and re-interview coaches until you actually find somebody who is in perfect alignment with you and is actually understanding that you're not just, a little machine that's going to turn into a little trophy, but actually a human being with a lot of variables, a lot of moving parts that all have to be taken care of before, during, and after prep.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. Man, there's so many ways we can go because like I feel so strongly about this because I was the young athlete that was like trophy only. All I saw was pro card in my eyes. I saw shiny trophies and I was like, I don't care. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to push past everything, anything else in my life, whatever. Like this, I love the stage. Did my first show, got addicted as many people do. And you want to keep going. You want to keep pushing and you want to push, 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 push. And mentally, you might think that, oh, yeah, I can push harder and harder and harder, and more is more and more is more. But I guess, like, there's a certain point where your body will fight you and push back. And everyone told me, slow down, take off seasons, take long off seasons. And I was like, no, I'm going to the next prep, to the next prep, to the next prep. And suddenly I ended up somewhere similar. I ended up having horrible hormonal issues, but it wasn't just from the stresses of prep. which we thought it was. So it's okay, I can't lose weight. It's prep.
Yeah.
We'll just take you off prep and then you just, eat the same meal plans. I was eating the same sources of protein, vegetables, and carbs. Nothing but rice cakes, nothing but ground turkey. So I was eating clean, only broccoli or only asparagus. I had a very limited food group. I wasn't getting like nutrition. I was eating clean, but I wasn't having any variety. I was like, I'm following my meal plan. Why do I have hormonal acne that is awful? Why am I bloated every day? I was meal prepping once a week. Little things that I was doing, I would meal prep Sunday, 7 days a week, put it all in the fridge. Day 1, it's fresh. Day 2, it's fresh. It's day 3, it's okay. It's starting to go bad. Day 4, 5, 6, 7, I was eating old food. My gut was like, this is not like new food anymore.
Yeah, this ain't
I
it.
This is not it. There's like nothing left. This is like really old food. Like this is gross. End of the week, I was getting even worse and worse and worse. No explanation for it. I'm doing more cardio. We're doing less food. I'm gaining weight. I'm under stress. I'm under prep. So we pulled prep, took a year off, and we go through blood work. Blood work's out of control. Testosterone's low, progesterone, everything's thrown off. Stress is high. Everything's messed up. So we gotta fix, rebuild from scratch all the damage that was done. And it could have been prevented
Yeah.
because the red flags. I lost a cycle for 2 years and I'm like, oh, that just happens. That's whatever. That just happens. I'm like, oh, like, I'm just like, this is nice. Like, this is like a luxury. I don't have to ever buy tampons. This is great. No, no, that is like, it sometimes does happen, but that's like a sign you are under a lot of stress. Your body is under very, very stressed. Sometimes that does happen at the end of prep, but it shouldn't be to the point where it's 2 years. Like that's a long, long time. So like not thinking about that, like young athletes, they don't think about, okay, what are these? Okay, you're gonna get a trophy. You might get on stage. I've seen so many girls run themselves into the ground, look amazing, get a pro card, maybe get a national qualification or whatever it is, and then you may never ever see them on stage again because they did irreplaceable or like whatever damage they cannot be reversed, or it's gonna take them 3, 4, 5 years before their health is in check, before they can even prep again. And that's where a lot of athletes, there's the Jennifer Dories of the world that do it smart, that have body
Oh yeah.
fat in the off seasons, that are still going out to eat, incorporating all these things. But if you get lost in the sauce of prep and you just think, oh, hey, I got to keep going, I got to keep going, like something is going to give. And a lot of times, like your health takes a back seat slowly, but it doesn't take much before it's like to the point where, oh my gosh, like I really messed myself up. Not mess myself up for life, but it is going to take a lot of work to repair all that damage. So I've definitely been through it. So what are some of these red flags that competitors can look out for? And where do you come in? And like, what are some like helpful things that you've either implemented with other athletes? And like, how does that process work?
So the red flags are everything that you brought up. What you would describe as like what people that would describe as a symptom, I would say is a sign. So when they're like, oh, I've lost my period, like that's a diagnosis, amenorrhea. I would say that that is a sign, that's the red flag, that there is an underlying issue. If you are no longer able to digest the foods now that you were able to then, that is a symptom of an underlying issue. If you are, like you said, getting hormonal acne or your period's dysregulated, maybe it's changing in flow. So the quantity, maybe the frequency, maybe the length of your cycle. So oftentimes we'll see maybe like shorter cycles, maybe they're a little bit more frequent. So we know that we're dealing with an underlying issue, which could be fluctuating levels of progesterone and estrogen, not so different than something like perimenopause. So anything that, is different than it was at the onset of prep, to me would be a sign and a reason to look under the hood, for sure. We shouldn't see those sorts of changes to the point where they're impacting the way that you actually take on prep. Certainly, we shouldn't see the kind of symptom list that's coming up and impacting the way that you are recovering from prep. So if you are, not losing body fat at the rate at which you were before, and again, assuming that your program is sound, and your coach is making all of the correct pivots along the way, that would definitely be a red flag. That's a symptom. That's a sign that there is an underlying issue, whether it be adrenal, whether it be your thyroid, whether it be liver, whether it be your gut, like I said, an infection or something in your mineral status, which is so often overlooked. that's definitely a red flag. And I would definitely say that if you are just feeling exhausted and at all of the wrong times, right? So like middle of the day, cannot function, lots of headaches, very forgetful, can't string a sentence together properly. And these are real things for anybody who's like, considering getting into bodybuilding. And it's like, oh my God, that sounds really scary. But if you don't do it right, these are things that can actually happen. Because what happens with stress, and again, we already identified what all of the different hidden stressors could be across all of our systems, right? Hormones, immune function, digestion, detoxification, our endocrine system, energy production, our nervous system. All of that really just comes into one thing, which is just metabolic chaos in the body. We have one responsibility, or our body has one responsibility, which is to keep us alive. So functions like our reproductive health, right? Being able to like create and grow a baby, our libido, even as a precursor to that. None of those are going to be priorities when survival is being threatened. And if the body is under so much stress that it feels like survival is being threatened, and that is always the interpretation, as much as we're very sophisticated in that way, we're absolutely not. What happens is it has to borrow reserve from other systems in the body. So maybe it's going to borrow, like I said, from our endocrine system. It's going to borrow from, our fluctuating hormones. And yeah, your libido is going to tank because when you're, in stress, that's really not a time to be making and growing a baby. Or maybe it's actually going to borrow reserve from your digestive prowess. Maybe that's going to slow down. Maybe you're not going to be absorbing nutrients, metabolizing, partitioning them the way that you would when you're in better health. And so you can think about it almost like one big bank account with sort of subsidiary accounts. And your accountant, which is really your stress regulator, is going to constantly be managing all of those smaller accounts and reappropriating funds to where they're needed. And where they are always going to be needed first and foremost is, like I said, your survival. So when we start to see all of those other systems start to tank, start to downregulate, or start to speak up through symptom, that's where we need to actually take a look. So with our clients, what we like to do is run specific labs before they actually begin prep. And the reason for that is really simple. We want to get a baseline of their health markers. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're in great health at the onset of prep. And that's actually something that we would want to know about. So if the onset of prep, you run your labs and all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, look at that. You got an H. pylori infection. You've got candida. You've got maybe SIBO. So there's this overgrowth of bacteria in the gut, in the upper gut. And I'll give you another example. Like I said, progesterone is looking low, and maybe you don't have enough diamine oxidase to deal with, all of the histamine in your body. We know that that's a client who's going to really struggle during prep and who's probably going to run themselves to the ground. That's the sort of client who we would want to work with to restore function in all of those areas, eradicate infections, right? Bring their hormones back into balance so that when we hand them back over to their coach and they go into prep, it's smooth sailing. They get predictable outcomes. They can stay in prep for a longer period of time rather than having to, like I said, white knuckle it the way that I did over the course of 12 to 16 weeks. We would also want to run labs at the end when they're all done their season and they're ready to go into not just like rest and recovery, but actually rebuilding, right? Re-nutrifying the body. We have to see where the depletions are. We have to see where the needs are. Because to go into like your off season and just move from, let's say, the gym into F45, which is what a lot of athletes do. They're like, I need to do something. I'm going to train for high rocks, or to just increase calories. Calories, yes, but what about the specific nutrients, right? Stress is a very depleting experience in the body. We deplete vitamins, we deplete minerals, and yes, we deplete hormones as well. We deplete function. So it's important that our recovery season be as strategic, if not more so, than the prep itself. So for us, that's sort of like the big one is bookending our labs. And there's a number of different labs, obviously, that you can choose from. I think it's really important that you don't necessarily run the labs that your favorite influencer did, even though they're all great and they can be super insightful. I think it's really important to kind of, like I said, take audit and figure out where your needs are, where the concerns are, so that the labs that you run actually are speaking to what your body needs. Yeah, so that for us, like the labs are invaluable. And I will say that in all of my years of doing this work, and I've been in this space for almost 25 years now, it really wasn't until I actually introduced functional lab testing, not just into my practice, but like into my own life, that I was able to very confidently develop protocols for myself and for my clients. Prior to that, it was just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that it stuck, right? It's
Yeah.
like, we'll just try that out and see how it works.
Oh
And
my gosh, yeah.
right? And the thing is, like, even with something that is considered good, so let's say something like, I don't know, magnesium. Magnesium is considered good, right? Everybody's taking magnesium now. Everyone knows there's many different types for many different things, but everybody's taking it, especially competitors, because we need to get that good restorative sleep when we grow. Magnesium could do great things in the body, it can do nothing in the body, or it could actually be quite detrimental in the body depending on what your personal needs are. So a perfect example of that is sodium and magnesium working synergistically and antagonistically in the body. And that's something that minerals all do. They can work together, they can work against each other. And it really just comes down to having that, like the sweet spot, the perfect ratio. So if you're the type of person who, for instance, has a low sodium magnesium ratio, so you've got like really low sodium, and I introduce even more magnesium, which is supposed to be good. It's supposed to help you relax, right? Relax and sleep. What ends up happening is I drive sodium down even lower, creating a massive excess, what we would consider to be basically magnesium toxicity. And the symptoms are actually anxiety and insomnia. So for the people who are actually taking magnesium, they're like, I don't get it. It doesn't relax me. I'm going stir crazy and I'm running lists until 3 o'clock in the morning. That actually could be why. This is why we run our labs. Because for honestly, if for nothing else, for all of the money that athletes are spending on supplements, there is a much better way to figure out specifically what you need so you can put a little bit of money back in your pocket and actually start using things that are yielding the results that you want them to.
Okay, I've been through all of this and I can tell you it makes a difference. I think the biggest takeaway for me when I'm listening to this is that athletes, if you are listening to this, it is supplements aren't one size fits all. Even if something is quote unquote healthy, it doesn't mean it's healthy for you. You have to
Yes.
know what is on the inside through proper blood work. If you're going to be a serious athlete or if you're just going to be really focused on your health long term, we don't wait for symptoms. We have to be proactive. So that's regular blood work. So you can kind of see those red flags in your markers of blood work and think about, okay, why is your ratios off? Or what are you taking that is doing this? Or is how are you training? Or how are you not recovering? How are you feeling? And trying to make you optimal. So when we're a competitive athlete, it's different from the everyday gym goer because we don't need to just be in shape. Like you're already in shape. You're taking this to extreme levels. Like we are trying to get you peeled, shredded on stage. We are trying to maximize how you can absorb those nutrients in a small window. We're trying to maximize fat loss. We're trying to maximize all these different things. And small, like it is small micro differences that make a huge difference. This is the food that you're eating, this is the stress, like everything is connected in the body. So when you have like the proper blood work, you have your minerals. I went on a low histamine diet. I met with a naturopath. I met with everyone. I took blood work. I tried it all. I tried an off season. We ate more. We did less cardio. We did um I did a mineral testing. I did a food and allergy sensitivity test. I did all of the things. I finally met with a naturopath and she gave me random weird advice. One of the most weird things was, do you ever go outside? No. All of my cardio was done inside. I never saw sunlight. I would just be attached to a treadmill. Never went outside, really. So it's like, okay, you need to go outside. You need to get fresh air. You need to go on a walk every day. Walk your dog. They want to go on a walk and just get fresh air, stress free, away from your devices. That's like a huge thing. How often are you on social media? Are you scrolling? So it's like limit your scroll time, limit your screen time. Like you don't think those things are making an impact, but everything you do like it is all part of your health and like your health is everything that you do, everything that you consume. There was certain supplements that I was taking that were healthy, but I didn't need it. It was basically wasting like you're literally you might be taking supplements that are very expensive and you are wasting it because you don't need it. It's not going to benefit you at all. So you're literally just swallowing down dollar signs is what like you're just wasting that product. You don't need it where you could either not take it. It would be a benefit for you to not take it. So I was on all of these supplements for health, and I'm so healthy. I'm taking all these pills. Body didn't need it. It was actually causing more stress. So we stopped taking some things. We added in things that I actually need. We took a look at minerals. Okay, you're not getting any variety in your vegetables, fruit, and protein. Let's just switch it up and see what happens. Okay, you're microwaving every single meal in a plastic container and you're not sitting down and slowly eating, taking small bites of food, fully chewing one bite of food before you go to the next. Like those things matter. Drinking out of a straw all the time for everything. That was a weird thing with me that was causing random bloating. I did it all. I didn't have a great skincare routine. I didn't wash my face after I would work out. Like weird things like that. Why do you have acne? Oh, you're not washing your face. It's pretty simple, but you don't think about it. You're just give me a pill to fix it or give me whatever to fix it. Like just fix it instead of taking, like, you don't have to always add a supplement. You can take away things too, and you might see
Yeah.
better results. There was a point in my prep where I was losing hair. My nails were brittle. I had acne. My hair was thinning. And when my hair started thinning, I did not care what I had to pay. I wanted my hair back. I wanted to be youthful and healthy and all of those things that you don't think about until you're at the very end and you're like, oh my gosh, I need help. The histamine thing, I took a food allergy sensitivity test. Cod was a no-go for me. That was previously on my peak week protocol.
Yeah.
Same with nuts, peanuts. I don't have a nut allergy, but peanuts were high inflammation thing.
Hmm.
So no peanut butter for me. My carbs would be either olive oil, coconut oil instead. Strawberries were high histamine. I took out strawberries. My acne almost instantly disappeared.
Amazing.
It like weird little things that strawberries are healthy. You can have them, I can have them, and we might get different results. So having like that like holistic approach to your prep alongside your coach, because your coach
Mhm.
is going to help get you what you need for stage and your posing and all that. But like you honestly need like a body coach for everything else, like all of your hormones.
Okay, you're spot on when you said, like, not everything is good for everybody, right? And
Yeah.
that is so true. And all of the modalities that you're bringing up, like all of these things sound super simple. These are just like lifestyle approaches. But the thing is that the impact of them is going to be so tremendous. It's going to be so beneficial during your prep, especially because of all of the stressors that you're taking on. So, if you're going to add in a stressor, you've got to take it out somewhere else. If you're going to add in intense training, more cardio, more supplements, whatever it's going to be, you're going to have to make room for that by cleaning up your lifestyle otherwise. So it might sound, overly simplified, the things that you're explaining, like take your walks outside. Yeah, take your walks outside. Slow down on your eating. I'll tell you one of my tricks, and my clients hate me for this. Eating psychology is that's my baby. That's like really where my heart lies. It's work that I do with every single client, whether they realize it or not. It is so, so, so crucial. But one of the things that I will have them do, because we tend to like shovel our food while we are scrolling on Instagram and potentially answering emails, and we're between training sessions or we're driving. I have a rule that you only get to hold your fork when it is moving from your plate to your mouth. After that bite, the fork has to go down out of hand.
Yeah.
Out of hand, you have to take the time to meticulously chew your food. That is where digestion begins.
Yeah.
You cannot digest your food properly in a stress state. And when that sympathetic nervous system is triggered, you are not going to be breaking down your food, metabolizing your food, assimilating your nutrients the way that you want to. It's just, quite frankly, not going to happen. You are going to end up with things like bloating, constipation, and diarrhea, which are two sides of the exact same coin. So if you feel like sometimes you're constipated and then you have bouts of diarrhea, yes, predictable. So that mindful eating is not just a practice of like, oh, romanticizing my food. I'm in my soft girl era. No, that's a matter of good health. How you actually present food to yourself. Where are you eating it out of? Are you actually going to eat it out of Tupperware? Can you at least, even if you're at the gym, sit down at one of those tables? Can you turn your phone off? Because yes, romanticizing mealtime is actually going to improve the quality of your digestion and therefore your metabolism.
Mhm.
It's going to improve actually the satiety that you get from the meals that you're eating. How many times have you eaten in a distracted way and gotten to the bottom of your, I'm going to say again, plastic Tupperware and gone, where'd my food go? Like, did I actually eat that? Did I forget to eat? Did I forget to put that in my Tupperware? No, you did. You consumed it, but because you weren't present, because you were so disembodied and distracted, unfortunately, the brain didn't process that you consumed it. And you're going to be left feeling perhaps physically satiated, probably not because you're in a caloric deficit, but mentally absolutely not satiated. And that's where a lot of the food focus, a lot of the food noise will come from. It's
Yeah.
really just not being present at our meals. So all of those lifestyle pieces that you're talking about, they sound so simple, but that's the base. Like that's the foundation. That's where you start. It has to be, whether you're going into prep, whether you're in an off season, or whether you're just a regular Gen Pop person who is looking to feel better. Because look, the fact is that yeah, we're competing and we're doing all these things, but eventually we hang up our heels. You might put them on a few years later, but eventually you do hang up your heels, and it can actually be a time of building incredible health practices. Prep can be that, and you can take a lot of what you establish for yourself into your regular life. And that's what's going to carry you moving forward. So, yes, supplements, but strategies and practices first and foremost. And that's where we work with our clients. We work with them on diet. We work with them on rest and recovery. We work with them on exercise. We work with them on stress management. And yes, of course, supplementation. But I would say that that's like the lowest hanging fruit. I'll tell you that time and time again, I see people introducing supplements and they might get like a moment of respite. They might get a little bit of symptom relief, but then they're right back down to where they were, right? And so, even like when it comes to something like histamine, if you have any, so you brought up strawberries, which is not, it's not an allergy for you, just like with peanuts, it's not an allergy for you, right? So you're not like from immediate exposure getting a flare up, but it could be literally a day later, all of a sudden you've got headaches, right? Or you've got bloating even 2 days later. That's what we would call a sensitivity. That is a histamine response. And so, I've seen a lot of athletes learn to actually use antihistamines over the course of their prep. And it's like, okay, I get it that you're actually suppressing those symptoms, you're silencing them, but they're speaking up for a reason. Typically, the reason, though, is actually permeability within the gut. Because the question is like, why are those foods and food chemicals actually able to permeate and get into the rest of your system? They actually shouldn't be able to. And so, when we work on healing and sealing the gut and bringing back the integrity to the mucosal barrier, oftentimes the things that you were sensitive to, you won't be anymore, and you can eat from a much wider variety of foods. So things to consider that, when you start seeing things like that, like, oh, that's crazy that I'm actually like sensitive to strawberries. You don't always have to be. Like this isn't a permanent state. It's something, much like PCOS that can actually be resolved, but it is always going to start with not the supplements. That's why I mentioned them last. All of those other strategies, all of those other protocols, all of those other common sense things.
Yeah. And when we went through these issues with myself, I was like, is that really the advice that you're giving me? Is like, cut out some of these foods and go outside and eat slow. And the world of difference, I tell you, I felt instantaneously. I mean, that next week by take like, if the only thing that you did was eat your meal slow and eat out of a plate without your phone and being present, suddenly I was more full on the exact same calories that I had the week
Yeah.
previously. Suddenly that food focus of having to eat, or if I would used to just in the mornings, I would just stand and eat and then go. I would never sit. I would just eat quick. And again, I never even felt full ever. I just was having these intense cravings because I didn't even know I was eating. Your body needs to prepare itself to digest. So if you're not looking at food, it's not going to start the digestion process. I did a lot of research on my own about this to try to fix it myself. So if you actually don't look at the food you're about to ingest, you're not going to
Mhm.
start having saliva. It's not going to start preparing your body of like, hey, food is coming. I used to chew gum too much all the time. I would crave, and I would just gum, 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 gum. So I was had all this saliva was in my gut and it was having this chew, 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 but it was not getting the calories. So I was constantly hungry and my cravings were out of control. It's like, well, you're chewing all day, but you're eating nothing. Of
So you had
course,
this
it's
enzymatic response. It was acting on nothing, creating probably so much like upper motility activity, probably belching,
it was
discomfort.
weird. And I'm like, well, I'm not eating. This doesn't make any sense. Why am I so hungry? But like those little things made like the most impact of my prep. Now I'm in the point where I'm healed. I love that I have the most calories I've ever had. I've had the best body composition and my waist is as tight as it's ever been. I still have abs. I'm 4 pounds above my stage weight. The last shows that I did, I would previously, when everything was going crazy, I would gain 7 to 10 pounds in a 1 to 2 week period. And it wasn't for lack of effort. I was well, I did have a couple little meals off, but it wasn't enough calories to justify that weight. My body was just so hyper stressed that the second that the show was done, it just gained and gained and gained. And it was like, something is going on. It was trying to tell me, like, hey, something's going on. Like, you need to pay attention to us. And it kept giving me signal after signal. And I kept ignoring it and pushing it down, or I'll take a little supplement here, or I'll do whatever, I'll do more cardio. And it just got to the point where it's like, okay, something is wrong. Let's figure it out. And it really goes back to your habits. Do you have a morning routine? Do you have a proper bedtime? Are you getting consistent sleep? I sleep for 8 hours every single night. I don't care. I feel better. I don't like drinking. I mean, that's a whole nother story, but I know that, like, if I am drinking, it's going to disturb me. It's not something I want to do. Even if I have a meal off, I don't want to go for the most sugary thing because I know that I feel bad after. I want to have something that's going to curb my sweet tooth, as most athletes do, but I don't need it anymore like I once did. Having the morning routine, having it without your phone, not starting the morning scroll, doom scroll, not checking the other competitors. Don't care about that. Just turn your phone off. You can set up your Instagram or your whatever to have like a time where it tells you your limit. So I had a limit set. I stopped following the food accounts. I stopped drooling over food, because when you're looking at the food, you're gonna crave it. If you can't see it, if you can't think about it, you won't crave it. Having the consistent, like, whatever your supplements are, staying on top of them. I think electrolyte balance was huge for me. I was on an acne medicine, and it was like a natural diuretic. And so I technically was drinking a gallon of water, but I actually wasn't getting hydrated because I didn't have enough sodium. I didn't have enough electrolytes. So I was so tired.
Mhm.
Second, we put electrolytes in, I suddenly had all this energy. I felt amazing. So, like, I've been through it all. I've been through every avenue: food, supplements, training, going outside. And sometimes it was pulling back on training because I was just so inflamed. Doing less as actually have more rest period, had better gains, actually stretching, foam rolling, like just taking care of your health and not running yourself into the ground. Like, you don't have to have a miserable path. You don't have to have no period, no cycle, grind mode. You don't have to be on 2 hours of cardio as a badge. Like, it shouldn't be that way. If you're fighting for your life on prep, it's time to stop.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, right? Like when I'm talking about functional labs, so whether it's like a GI map or a stress and
Yeah.
hormone panel, the Dutch test that everybody's talking about, you did like a hair tissue mineral analysis, all amazing things. But the reality is, at $0, you could be interpreting your own functional labs every single day, and that is your body's symptoms. So
Yeah.
as women, if you've still got your cycle, that's a functional lab test that you're getting results on every single month. So when you're seeing that dysregulation, it is telling you something. There's so much incredible information online. I promise, you know what? When this is done, I will go and record a reel telling you all about what your period is letting you in on. So, what is going to indicate to you that you are actually maybe low progesterone or high estrogen, or that you are maybe, low on certain minerals. Like there was a time in an Ayurvedic medicine still, traditional Chinese medicine still today, and I would say like early onset Western medicine, physicians used to look at women's menstrual blood as an indicator of their baseline health. It tells so much. So our symptoms speak volumes. And I say this constantly, probably on every podcast and every conversation that I have with people. If you had a friend who was constantly saying, "Hey, there's this thing that you're doing. I don't like it. It's making me feel bad. Hey, can we talk?" And you were like, "Yeah, yeah, I'll get back to you tomorrow. Yeah, sure." And you just like maybe sent them some flowers, but didn't actually change your ways. Eventually, you guys would either have an explosive fight, or they'd ghost you. They'd be done with you. And that's kind of the way that prep goes if you don't actually tune into your friend, your body telling you how it's actually feeling. If you don't tune into that feedback, it's either going to explode on you and you are not going to make it to stage because, like you said, maybe it's going to be not just like resistant weight loss, but persistent weight gain despite all of your best efforts. Or, you might just burn out. And so like we have a program coming out, if you don't mind me plugging this, we have a program coming out. It's called Spark. So Spark has always been a program of ours. It is based on the HTMA, which is the hair tissue mineral analysis, because quite frankly, minerals are the spark plugs of your whole life, of your whole body. There is not a system in the body that does not rely upon impeccable mineral status to be able to function properly. So we used to run Spark as a one-to-one. And it was wonderful because it told us everything that we needed to know, not just about, vitamin and mineral status and ratios, but also thyroid health and adrenal health and gut health, which are so, so, so crucial to our female athletes, to all athletes, but we work with women. And what we decided to do was actually convert the program into a group program. And the reason that we wanted to do that was because yes, bodybuilding can be a very isolating sport. Generally, people, in our normal lives don't entirely understand what it is that we're doing. There's a lot of education that needs to happen. But additionally, it's just you and your coach, and especially now with everything that's happening online, like it's you and your coach, maybe cities, states, countries away from each other. So we wanted to create an environment where people could actually go through this education and healing process together, but also because what we have found is that the more metabolic struggle we encounter during prep, the more isolated we become from our bodybuilding community. When you go online, what do you see? You see people posting pictures looking amazing, right? It's like, oh, lost this much weight this week, or here's my new suit, look how good I am, glute shot. But we rarely see images or watch videos of athletes going like, prep is not going the way that I wanted it to. I'm having a really hard time. My coach has changed everything, and I'm just like, I'm not meeting the mark. I'm exhausted. I'm so sorry to all of my clients that I forgot to email back. You don't see that side of it. And so it's generally because people are kind of struggling alone. They're struggling in the dark. They don't even want to tell their coaches because their coach is like, well, how bad do you want it? Right. And I get that that's not every coach, but a lot of coaches, unfortunately. So we wanted definitely to create an environment where an athlete who would generally otherwise self-isolate and not be in community and maybe not even seek out an opportunity to heal could actually use this struggle and leverage it to get better together. So we've taken Spark, we've rebranded it. It's now going to be a 7-week program to really solve bodybuilding burnout. And by that, I mean, your energy is depleted, your digestive prowess is depleted, your hormones are depleted, your cognitive function is depleted, your libido is gone, whatever it means for you. And for every single athlete, woman, person, the symptoms are going to start in different places. And it really just kind of depends on what your most vulnerable, your most sensitive system is. And so, yeah, we're going to be taking women through with what I think is probably, I think, yeah, I can confidently say the lowest priced functional lab test on the market is the HTMA, but it actually gives us so much information about everything. So you'll get the HTMA, you'll be able to run out of the comfort of your own home, and you will get a full interpretation and protocol, which is going to cover everything: diet, rest, like I said, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. And then we learn and we work together as a group until you're feeling pretty fabulous. So we're going to be opening up registration in the coming days. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but it'll be on our socials, and we're hoping to start the first cohort of this specific program sometime mid to end of April, and get everybody looking and feeling amazing for the summer. So, I think whether you're coming out of prep and just kind of feeling tanked, or you want to avoid, getting tanked by prep, this would be a stellar place to start.
I love it. Okay, so if anyone wants to find you on social media or like reach out to you, like what is the best way to get in touch if they're interested in this program?
Yeah, so we're big Instagram girls. I'm trying to we should be on Facebook. You'll find us on Facebook eventually, but we're just on mostly on Instagram right now, and it's Balance and Body Diagnostics, and then our website is balanceandbodydiagnostics.ca because we're in Canada. But yeah, those are probably the two best places to reach us, and you can, if you ever feel like picking our brains, if you have just any curiosities, oh hey, if you have any curiosities, just about, I don't know, maybe some information that you read online. If you saw a TikTok about a certain test or a certain supplement, instead of, playing Google MD, which can be really scary sometimes, you can just send us a DM. We love having conversations like that with you guys and just helping out and helping you stay on the right path, not get misguided by all the info out there. So yeah, hit us up. We'd love to chat.
And if they want to follow you in your journey, where can they do so?
Oh, so me personally, I am at 18, the letters, not the numbers, diagnostics on Instagram. And it's kind of the other my other business half, which is very much what Angelica and I do for our bodybuilding community. But in on 18 Diagnostics, I deal more with Gen Pop. A lot of women just like me. I'm turning 46 in 13 days. Moms, and just women in general who are like concerned with their reproductive health, who just want to feel amazing going in and out of all of the other athletic things that they do, like running a podcast and designing bikinis for people. So not necessarily bodybuilding stuff. And so as I go into my prep for Fit Model, which has already, come with its ups and downs. I'll share with you quickly what I've discovered. I will definitely be sharing more of it there. I'm very sensitive to the fact that I think a lot of women who hang out on that page are also coming because they might be in a place where they're struggling with their body and therefore body image. So I'm kind of cognizant of how much of that journey I share there, because I do remember when, I gained up, it was actually a little bit more than 20 pounds over 7 weeks suddenly, despite, I'll just say, knowing what to do. Been a professional in this space for a long time. One of the things that I had to do was actually like get off social. I had to unfollow all of my favorite athletes, and I couldn't look at it anymore because I was feeling awful. And honestly, it's probably good advice for everybody is curate your socials, curate your friend group in real life, curate your socials, and just make sure that it's something that pours into you and doesn't deplete you. But yeah, so you can definitely follow me there and follow hopefully what is going to be a really successful journey. Definitely, I'm going to be running my labs in about 3 or 4 weeks, and so I will share that with everybody. I'm going to be doing the HTMA with our group. I definitely want to do that all together, but I'm also going to be running a GI map, which is going to take a look at all my gastrointestinal markers and tell me a lot about how my body's actually clearing hormones from the body, something that's super important. So before you go adding in DIM, which I know a lot of coaches like to do, you might want to know how your body's clearing your estrogen to begin with. And yeah, I'm going to be running a stress and hormone panel to see what my cortisol capacity is, what my adrenals are doing, but then of course, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, all those goodies. And yeah, so I'll share that with all of you guys. Angelica and I do have a podcast as well. We're only a couple episodes in, but if you follow us at Balance and Body on Instagram, then as more episodes drop, then you'll be able to see those there too.
I love it. Okay, I do want to briefly touch on your journey about Fit
Yeah.
Model just because I am curious about it. So between Fit Model and bikini so far, is anything been different, unexpected, or what are you excited for?
Okay, so I will say this. When I first started training for bikini, again, it was 2009. I only had 3 kids at the time. And I know that it doesn't sound like a huge jump from 2009 to 2025, but however old I was there, 30 something to now, almost 46, it's a huge change. The change hormonally. And because there's a change hormonally, there's a change in my gastrointestinal system, the way that my digestive system is responding to foods that I eat, but more specifically, the intensity of the training. So back then, I was able to do a lot. Now, I probably did a lot more than I needed to because the ideal body type at the time, right? So I'm going back to OG bikini was so incredibly different than what we see today at the top level. I was gonna say of the pro bikini stage, but also like some of these NPC girls, wow.
Yeah.
Truly like wow. We didn't look like that back then. And that's to be expected because just like any sport, things develop, things evolve. It's cool. What I'm finding today is that my body definitely cannot contend with the same level of intensity. Like I have to be so on top of how much I'm doing versus how much I'm not doing. And it's in the not doing that I'm actually able to get the most out of what I am doing. So I took on a coach at the top of the year. It was like January 3rd, I think we started. And immediately, I was training. I went from 2 days a week in the gym to 5 days a week in the gym. Definitely, increasing the volume of my training. So I was lifting a lot heavier, more reps, more sets, all the things. I had, 3 days, three lower body days per week, which makes sense for the division. And not a lot of cardio, but it was daily. And it was in a more sort of intentional way than the way that I do my cardio now. I'll explain to you how I do it. Now, over the course of the, I guess, 2.5 months that we actively worked together, and this is no shot at my coach. It was phenomenal. He's amazing. He's had massive success with his athletes. But again, that synergy matters, right? Every body needs something different. I don't just mean everybody, but every actual physical body. I lost 0 pounds of fat. Zero. My girth measurements changed slightly, not enough that I would say that we actually achieved much of anything. But I was happy to at least have gone through the trial and error of, different macros, different ratios as well, and different styles of training. What I've done since then, and so it's only been a few weeks, is I've again just intuitively reduced my volume of training. And I've moved my cardio to, instead of doing it all in one session, I actually have broken it up over the course of a day. So right next to me here on the floor, I have a walking pad. No, it's not incline treadmill walks. It's just my walking pad. But what I'm doing is actually using it for, let's say, 15 minutes at a time post meal. And so that there's two reasons why I'm doing that. One, it's a heck of a lot easier to fit it into the day when it's fragmented into bite-sized pieces. And so for anybody who thinks like, oh, I have to get it done all at once, or it's not as impactful metabolically, yes, it is, right? So you can do it 1 minute at a time. It is as impactful. It really comes down to the total output. And then the other thing is that it is so powerful in helping us with blood sugar regulation, insulin sensitivity, to be actually getting in some movement post meal. So for me, that's kind of like the two birds, one stone. It's been the most amazing asset. And so what I'm now seeing is immediately my sleep is better. So I'm falling asleep faster and staying asleep longer. So I'm not experiencing that interrupted sleep. And then the other thing that I've noticed is that, yes, in fact, finally the scale is moving in the right direction. Now, I recognize, of course, there are other metrics that we need to take into consideration when we're, in prep. So it's not always about the weight on the scale, but I'm many pounds away from stage weight because, I've just kind of been in my real life for a while now. And so actually seeing movement on the scale is a pretty important metric for us at this point. So that was something that, I'm really, really happy that I'm able to achieve. So yeah, just inflammation is generally coming down and my body is actually responding. Now, for most people, they're not going to see symptoms like dysregulated sleep or resistant weight loss, a couple weeks into a prep. But I would say that for, this is definitely going to speak to people who are, in the master's divisions, potentially. For a woman, especially in perimenopause, our systems are just that much more sensitive. And so generally speaking, we're going to get that biofeedback a lot faster, a lot faster. So whereas, right now with how I'm supporting my progesterone, because I tend to, with my perimenopausal clients, I tend to support progesterone before any of our other hormones, because that is the precursor. That is what's going to, manage and kind of govern what estrogen is doing. My periods have been very, very regular, very predictable, but only over the course of that 2.5 months, I actually already started to see some dysregulation. So just to say that, one, I definitely had to take a harder look at everything else that was going on in my life. I had to become more protective of my sleep. So with everybody in the house, there's, a certain point at which we're done. Mummy's not mummying anymore, right? Go to daddy, figure it out yourselves. I'm having to get a little bit more organized about my mornings, getting the kids off to school so that it doesn't become a stressful, event every single morning, getting everybody out the door. But definitely doing a little bit less has been giving me more results. The other thing that I found is that in the past, where I was able to just kind of be like, oh, it fits my macros, it has to fit my blood sugar goals as well now. It really, really does. And so I feel like when I was younger, there was just a little bit more wiggle room when it came to potentially having a naked carb every now and again or having something more processed. I can't do that today. I don't wear like CGM or anything like that. But again, I see it in actually how my rings fit. So that inflammation happens really, really quickly for me. And like I said, I see it on the scale. So yeah, that's it. It's really come down to not even with the functional labs, but just for myself, tuning into the data points that my body has been giving me in this very, very short period of time. And I've already been able to kind of take that back to, the drawing board and pivot. And while that might seem crazy, at the onset of prep to actually be reducing some of the activity, and swapping out some of my calories for more dietary fat. But that's what's working for me. And that's why I said that, like you are running functional labs every single day simply by being active, by eating food. You want to listen to how your body's actually responding to it. So yeah, that's been my journey so far towards fit model. But I have the good fortune of already having my pro status. So, I mean, I think it's yet to be determined whether or not we're going to have to do a qualifying show, but hopefully next year, I'll be able to get to stage. And I think it's an ample amount of time to actually go after this prep in cycles. So I don't think that it necessarily needs to all be done all at once. I think what's going to be really, really important is just maintaining my metabolic fortitude and giving myself periods of recovery throughout this, what is going to be probably like a year-long prep. But I'm excited for it. I'm really stoked. It's been a really, really long time. Obviously, like I said, I'm really excited to be getting my suits in this week. Obviously, wearing, Angel, it's going to be, they're going to be stunning. I know the colors are beautiful. I know a lot of people are kind of up in arms about the fact that we don't get crystals. Who knows? Maybe once we get to the pro stage, we will. But honestly, like I think the suits look stunning regardless. And for those of us who, yeah, you know what, maybe we're not sure, if this is going to work out, if this is going to be right for us. I mean, it's our first step into fit model. So I think, the fact that we get to save a couple pennies on the suits is not such a bad thing. But they look great. They look great. So I've got one in it's the matte teal is coming my way. There's, I want to say, is there like a lilac?
Mhm.
I think I've got a lilac and obviously red. Like, how could we not have the hollow red? That's coming too. I can't wait.
I'm super excited for this journey. Yeah, so I know a lot of girls are interested in fit models, so it's different, which is different because you're a pro going into fit model, which is exciting. So no pro shows till 2026. So we have not, I guess they're going to come up with more things as there's more pros. Right now, I think there's one pro. One pro, and then there is current bikini pros or wellness pros that might transition into fit model. So a lot of OGs are coming back and the sport has evolved. It got too muscular to be competitive. And then they're like, wait, fit model is what I started in. Let's come back. So there's going to be a lot of comebacks, which I'm very excited to watch how this unfolds with like the pro shows and everything. Like it's going to be an insane year. I'm really
Mhm.
excited to see that too. But like going back to like that first time competitor or to a current athlete, let's finish off with just some final advice. So before symptoms arise in prep, like what is your advice to manage everything that we've talked about, or what are some proactive things that athletes can do before it gets to the point where they have experienced these symptoms?
Yeah. So short of running those labs, because why guess? We always say test, don't guess. Like I really don't think there's any reason to kind of, run the prep and see what happens. You might as, I mean, with prep, that's the nature of prep is we're actually staying on top of every single variable, except for the ones that probably matter the most, because they are what is going to actually dictate whether prep works the way that you want it to. But other than running the labs, because I recognize that, some people just might have their whatever, for whatever reason, they might be lab avoidant or it might be, cost prohibitive. Whatever the reason is, there is still a lot that you can do to make sure that you have a really successful prep. So if you're a first-time competitor, number one, get into community. Whatever you've heard about bodybuilding being a solo sport, it doesn't have to be. So there are podcasts that you can listen to, like this one, for instance, where you're going to get so much amazing information from Sav herself, from so many different experts that are going to come on and share with you what their experiences are. I would absolutely say if you have in your local community, which you do, because bodybuilding is so widespread, if you've got conventions that you can go to, if you have shows that you can go to, like go and immerse yourself in the culture. You're going to start to, network. You're going to start locking arms with people who are going to be like-minded. But I would also urge you, in as much as you are just slathering yourself with all things bodybuilding, also pour into your regular life because bodybuilding, whether you're in it for a few months, a few years, a decade, whether it actually does become a really significant part of your life or not, you're always going to have your family, your career, your friends, your social outreach, if you do charity work, religion, spiritual practice, whatever it is. Don't leave those things behind. Those are the things that are going to carry you during the hardest times of prep. Let those things be the shoulders that you stand on to be able to reach for something so big in bodybuilding. Like I cannot stress enough that you really do need to actually stay true to yourself. And oftentimes that means, you know, taking a moment and being honest with yourself about whether or not you're still being, a good mother, daughter, friend, whatever. I would urge you to protect your boundaries. like so seriously, protect your boundaries. And I don't just mean, around like, oh, I'm going to do PEDs or I'm not. And that's a choice that you're going to make at some point, right? As a new competitor, maybe down the road. I also mean the types of people that you hang out with, the types of information that you're exposing yourself to. All of that is going to have an impact on how your body is actually functioning on a metabolic level. Like I said, you've got your sympathetic nervous system, you've got your parasympathetic nervous system. You want to be in that parasympathetic state, that rest and digest, where everything is working the way that it should, because your body doesn't feel threatened. If you're, at a gym that feels I don't know, that just doesn't feel conducive to your goals. If you're at a gym where you feel like you're constantly, being made to feel insecure, where you're not getting support, like the gym can feel like that can be your playtime, really and truly. Like I actually think of it, there's so many people in the bodybuilding community. Typically, the big burly ones that people think are really scary can be some of the friendliest, most supportive people out there. So just make sure that like every aspect of your day, like I said, is pouring into you instead of actually causing you to pour out, to leak out. Protect your boundaries when it comes to, yes, again, the quality of the food that you're eating, the water. Like, don't be ridiculous like me. This is plastic. Okay. I love it because it's pretty. Don't drink out of that. Don't, do better. Anywhere where you can make a little adjustment, a switch and ditch of a product, it might not seem like it's going to have a massive impact, but all of those things compounded together are going to do huge, huge, huge things for your health. And aside from that, I would say get really protective about what it is that you want out of this journey. So not just what you're going to do, like the how, but yes, the why and yeah, and the what as far as like, I want to be not just a winning athlete, a champion athlete, but an athlete who inspires, right? An athlete who can speak really openly about her journey, an athlete who is going to make a really positive impression on other people. I think that when you create that sort of an identity for yourself, that you're going to actually be like an amazing ambassador to, to the sport, even though you're just starting out, it'll help direct you towards making better decisions along the way. So hooking up with amazing people in the space, right? Locking arms with the right sponsors, coaches, other athletes, and all of that is going to help you really show up at your absolute best. So I think bodybuilding can be an incredible sport to participate in. I really, really do. Like so sincerely, I don't think that it would be possible for me to have achieved all of the things that I have today had it not been for bodybuilding, because that gave me the receipts. That gave me the black on white printed receipts that I can do hard things. And so today, when I'm presented with an opportunity, I never say no. I know what I'm capable of, but it also comes with, potentially its pitfalls and its dangers. And the best way to avoid them is to have a really clear path to where it is that you're going to want to go, right? There's loads of information. You've got it at your fingertips. You've got it on your screen. So definitely like reach out, ask questions. You don't have to figure it out all on your own. All of us are here. The old ladies, we're here, right? Um, that's it. Yeah, protect your boundaries.
I
Have
love
some boundaries.
yeah, there's a lot of this podcast would be really beneficial to younger me. I wish I would have I wish I would have known what I know now when I first started, but it is great about the sport. It is ageless, so you can continue to compete as long as you would like, and hopefully that everyone leaves this episode a little smarter and healthier than they were when they first started. So thank you for coming on. I think last question I have to ask is, are you
Yeah.
team cupcake or are you team protein shake?
Oh, cupcake.
Okay,
Cupcake.
perfect, perfect. And if you could be a cupcake, what would your flavor be?
That's a really good question. Do you always ask that?
Yeah.
Really? I think I've like
Well,
literally.
sometimes I forget.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm this is like I like off the cuff. I know what it would be because it's my favorite. So it would be nobody's gonna like this. Everyone's gonna say it tastes like toothpaste. It would be a mint chip. It would be a mint chip. It would be like a fudge cupcake, but not too sweet. So it would have to be like more of a dark chocolate, 'cause I actually don't like things that are too sweet.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, it would have to be a mint chip frosting because that's my bad.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
that's you. All right. That is you as
What's
a
yours?
I think it's funfetti because I love funfetti, but some days it's changing. So my favorite profiles are lemon and strawberry, but if I could be like a multicolored, I mean, I'd be half funfetti and like half lemon blueberry if I could. I don't know.
Wait, are you at a place now where you can actually eat strawberries?
Oh, no. I mean, well, yeah, I can, but I just
She
choose
wants what
not
she
to.
can't have.
I know. I choose not to. Like lemon strawberry, I do love the strawberry flavor for desserts, but I
Yeah.
just don't eat it anymore. It's not worth it. I'd rather not have acne and I just haven't incorporated it back. I do other type of berries, but those are my
Yeah.
flavors and I don't know. No one really asked me, so I guess it changes every day.
I don't know. I mean, listen, you said protein shakes or cupcakes. If you would have said like, what about, steak and butter? That's probably what I would have gone with. I'm a savory over sweet, and I take a good like ribeye any day of the week.
I love
I
it.
do actually have it on most days of the week. That's a whole other episode. We'll talk about hormones one day and steak.
Okay.
Why I
I
want
love it.
everybody eating it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. We'll actually get
For
your
having us.
episode, I think, on the 19th. So it'll be
Amazing.
perfect for the time at your guys' program. So don't
Yeah.
forget to follow us on social media. Thanks for tuning into this episode. It'll be live every Wednesday.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. Take care.